You know what? Here's what I've understood about life
Uh-huh.
is that life happens and life happens with or without our permissions, whether we're ready or not. And there's some things that we do in life that just don't work. There's
Right.
some things we do in life where we fail. And what I've been fortunate enough to do is learn how to take a lot of failures. Did I say a lot of failures? A lot of failures in my life and transform that into success.
Right.
And that's what a failure transformation expert is. And I always say I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client. And so, man, I just help people to recover from failure, divorce failure, and put failure in its proper place.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we explore how to live our best audacious lives ever. I'm honored to have you here with us as we dive into topics that will inspire, motivate, and empower each and every one of us to embrace that audacious way of living. Now, just like a phoenix, rises from its ashes, transforming failure into success. It's like turning setbacks into stepping stones, and as we launch towards greatness. And in our interview today with Dan Johnson, we uncover the power of resilience, determination, and a mindset in the face of adversity. Dan is a transformational expert who has overcome numerous challenges in his own life to emerge as a beacon of hope and inspiration for others through his experiences and journeys. He has honed the ability to turn failures into stepping stone towards success. Dan's insights and personal experiences beautifully align with the theme of transforming failure into success. His journey is a testament of the power of perseverance, self-discovery, and resiliency in the face of adversity. And what better way to demonstrate an audacious way of living and than standing up in the face of adversity and then coming on the other side and a path of greatness. So really excited to share our conversation with Dan. It certainly was a good one. Enjoy. Hey Dan, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's a treat, my friend, for you to hang out. So thank you.
Man, listen, thank you for having me, my brother. I really, really appreciate it. You're doing some amazing work, and
Thank you.
so it's glad to be here.
Really, it's about just sort of spreading that message. I mean, we've all got this path that we're on, right, Dan? With all this thing that we're supposed to be doing, and it took me some time to understand that, but regardless how long it takes you, I got there, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is what it is, and so off we go. And I think for me, the part that I really enjoy is be able to just engage in like really meaningful dialogues that you can walk away and take something and go, okay, how can I use this, or my listeners can take this and go, how can we use this to change the trajectory, make our lives better, enhance what we're already doing, encourage others. And so that's the thing that drives me continually. And I love what I'm doing. Um, and I know we were before we press record, we were joking about a failure transformation expert, which is what you call yourself.
Yeah.
And I said when I press record, I'm gonna say, what is that? Because I don't know what it is. So you're gonna tell me, what is a failure transformation expert, Dan?
You know what? Here's what I've understood about life
Uh-huh.
is that life happens and life happens with or without our permissions, whether we're ready or not. And there's some things that we do in life that just don't work. There's
Right.
some things we do in life where we fail. And what I've been fortunate enough to do is learn how to take a lot of failures. Did I say a lot of failures? A lot of failures in my life and transform that into success.
Right.
And that's what a failure transformation expert is. And I always say I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client. And so, man, I just help people to recover from failure, divorce failure, and put failure in its proper place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a big part of what you're talking about is being comfortable or accepting of failure, because typically it's just not seen as a good thing. It's not seen as a thing we want to be a part of, nothing that we want to experience, right? And so what you're doing is kind of flipping it on its head a little bit and saying, it's not that bad, is it?
Exactly right. Because the reality of the situation is everything that ever happened through a test. And nobody has passed the test 100% of the time.
Right.
And so,
especially on the first try, right?
Especially on the first try. I always use this example. The world that have homes with carpet loves the vacuum cleaner. And the vacuum cleaner went through 10,000 prototypes before it actually sucked up the dirt. And so it wasn't that he failed 10,000, he was a failure 10,000 times. What it was that he learned what didn't work. And it took him 10,000 times to learn that lesson. So for me, failure is not who you are. It's just a life lesson that says, oops, that didn't work.
Right. It's funny because you think of, so as you talk about the vacuum cleaners, I think of like an inventor, right? An inventor depends on those failures to figure out what the next steps are. And if that's something that you can't handle, you're going to struggle as being an inventor, because if you don't have those failures, you don't get that direction of where to go. So you translate that to our lives. If we haven't made a mistake and we haven't, had a bump in the road and it's always been smooth, we're not going to be equipped when it gets tough.
Now, and that's exactly the message. The message is, look at failure as school. Look at failure as the classroom. Don't look at failure as your identity.
Right.
And the problem is, many people, once they encounter failure, they become one with failure, and failure becomes part of their identity. So wherever they go, the identity of failure follows. Right. And as a result, here's where the true definition of failure is: to not try, to not get started. And that's what they wind up doing, because they're fearful of failing again.
Got you. As opposed to being accepting of whatever happens and being able to adjust. And so let's just go through this. You try something brand new, it doesn't work out. You got two options, right? You can wallow in that failure and talk about how miserable life is, or all the bad things that happen to you, or why you can't do it again. Or you go, okay, I got you. Let's look over here instead, or let's try something different. That problem solver mindset.
And that's really what it is. But you can't get there if you become one with failure.
Right.
And so what I've learned is that failure comes from a myriad of things. Number one, failure comes from past trauma.
Gotcha.
Past trauma has the tendency of producing future failure.
I like that.
Number two, failure comes through personal experiences.
Yes.
Number three, failure comes through financial hardship and losses. So for me, whether you feel like you're struggling with failure personally, financially, or professionally, I can help you transform any one of those failures into success. Gotcha. That's what makes me an expert in it. Because, man, listen, I was so terrible at succeeding that I failed trying to commit suicide 4 times.
My goodness.
I couldn't even kill myself right.
Wow.
And what I realized through that context is that I really didn't want to die.
Right.
Just didn't want to live the way that I was living.
I love that. So Dan, maybe this is a good opportunity to sort of explain a little bit what your personal story and what got you to the point that you're at now for our listeners.
If I was on a stage somewhere with a bunch of folk that listen to old school music, I say I come from a poor family, didn't have much, but the Lord's been good to me. And really, that's where I came from, man. I came from the inner city of Chicago, and I grew up with parents that struggled with drugs, and I struggled with homelessness, molestation, all of that kind of stuff. Everything that you can think of that happens. My story is not unique to many that grew up in poverty. I just realized that I didn't want to live the rest of my life like I lived the beginning of my life.
Right.
So, I mean, from dealing with drugs with my mom, from being a gangbanger before I turned 17, all of those things, getting kicked out of 2 high schools, all of that. Man, Arlie, in my freshman year in high school,
Mhm.
my GPA ranged anywhere from 0.9 to 1.9 GPA.
Mhm.
By the time I got to my freshman year in college, I had a 4.0,
Wow.
and then will ultimately graduate magna cum laude.
Wow.
What was the difference between the failure that I was experiencing in high school and the success that I experienced in college? The difference was how I saw myself. And the question, which means the difference in who my identity was within me,
Right.
based on the situation surrounding me. Some of us become one with our situation.
Yes.
And as a result, we lose sight of ourselves. And so those are some of the failures that I've experienced. And from homelessness to, we built by the grace of God a multi-million dollar real estate portfolio. From bankruptcy to building a couple of 7-figure and 6-figure income businesses, and from helping people. And now we help people to scale. We help people to become successful in their business, whatever business it is. We help people become successful in life.
Amazing.
And we do that by using a few principles that I learned that worked in every aspect of failure that I ever experienced. I failed at marriage and wrote a book about it. I wrote a book called 151 Questions to Ask Before You Say I Do. You know what I'm saying? So
in that case, I got a couple books to write.
yeah, I get it. And so that's what it is, man. And that's my life in a very short version. And people use their imagination of all of the trauma and the things of that nature that exists within. But the greatest thing is, it doesn't matter who your mother is. It doesn't matter who your father is. It doesn't matter what hood you come from. You do not have to become the product of that environment or allow the ills of that environment to take you under. The only thing that can stop you from being the best you possible is you.
Right.
You are your only limitation, nothing else.
And you said a bunch of powerful things. The two that jump out to me right away absolutely is that we are not our failures. And if that's what we choose to embrace and that's what we choose to identify with, then how do we not become that? As opposed to recognizing that's something that happened. And with every failure, you can take something from that to understand, okay, this is what that lesson is. All right, now I can take this and move it forward. The other sort of aspect, just the whole idea of understanding that it's a process, right? And so, we'll use trauma. Trauma happens, right? But again, we don't have to stay there. We don't have to embrace that. We can take from that and move forward. And so, really, what I'm hearing from you loud and clear, it's really a choice, right? It's a choice what we want to do. Hold on tight to it or let it go.
As you talk about that, I'm reminded of my little brother, and I'll try to keep what could be a long story short. I'm the oldest brother of 5 siblings, and we all got different fathers. Mama was a Rolling Stone. Wherever she laid her head was her home. And my little brother came to live with me when he was about 19 years old. My mom got arrested again and got locked up. So he drove his car to come live with me. He was involved in a lot of self-destructive activity, drinking, girl, a bunch of stuff, right?
Yep.
And so I asked him, I said, why do you continue to make this decision? And my little brother said this. He said, this kind of life is the only life I feel like I'm good at. Everything else I ever tried to do, I failed. And so from that moment, I understood that I had to help him issue failure a bill of divorcement. Because once you become one with that failure, you don't even try to succeed in anything else
No, no.
because you feel like that's all you got.
Yeah.
Fast forward, he became a dean of students without a college degree. Fast forward, we helped him get a home, get a car, and all of that. Fast forward, he went from $15 an hour to now he makes about 130,000 at the age of 34 years old, and he runs the security department of one of the largest healthcare systems in our city here in Chicago. But what we had to do is to get him to look in the mirror and see himself for the possibilities of who he could be, opposed to the problems that he experienced while he was trying to be.
You see, Dan, for the thing that a lot of people have to come to understand and recognize is that failure isn't the end of the game.
No.
Right? It doesn't. It's not like okay, I'm doing something. I fail. Okay, it's over. It's done. Like that. That is just a chapter or a step or a part of the story, right? And so,
The process, to your point.
yeah, like your brother. That's not the end of it. There's more too, and so it's just a matter of recognizing that. The other thing that you touched on that I think is a beautiful realization for many is their potential, their possibilities, the things that they can do, and that limit only starts with what's going on in their head. So if your head says, "Yeah, I can't do that, man," or "That's not
Mm.
for me," or "I don't know how," we're in an information age. Like there's no way you can say you don't know how to do something and you can't find the answer. Like
Yeah.
it's out there, or there's enough people who've experienced that. So there's someone out there. There's a mentor. There's a coach. There's
Yeah.
people that have gone through these experiences that can give you that guidance and wisdom. If you don't have it, you just have to want to know to go after it and search for it.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I always say that we are our own limitations. My oldest son is 20. He'll be 28, and right now, he's broken all kind of records in the NBA industry as a group salesperson, and only been in the industry for 2 years. He was not supposed to get hired directly out of college, but he said, "Dad, they said I have to work 5 years as an intern or something. Do you think if I go after these positions, I can get it?" And I said, the most important question is not, do I think you can get it? The most important question is, do you think you can get it?
That's
Because if you think you can get it, then already you got it. All you got to do is go get it. And that's a mindset.
yes,
So he went after 5 NBA teams to become a group salesperson, not even with a master's degree, and they all made him an offer. And then he goes into a market, and we're coaching him through it because we coach in sales and all of that. That's my background. We go into a market he's never been in before and have broken about 4 or 5 records in that industry
yes,
as a young Black man at the age of 24 at the time. And as I speak to you now, he's somewhere doing an interview to take over an entire organization, and he's not 28 yet.
I love it.
It's possible.
I love it. I love it. And
And that's what I love about what you're doing. This audacious living is a living of saying, listen, it's possible. Are you willing to take the bold risk
that's right.
to get the reward that's on the other side?
That's right.
Or are we going to stay content in being discontentment, living a life that we don't want to live, but we're living it because we don't think we can live another life?
That's right. I
I got
often
excited. I'm sorry, we're supposed to be talking. I got
no. This is good. This is good. Like no. I like to wind you up and go and watch you work. I have no problem with that at all because you're saying good stuff. But I oftentimes use an analogy of a boulder, right? So a boulder comes in our pathway,
Yeah.
and it's blocking or it's impeding us from moving forward. And it's our job to find a way, whether it's up, over, around, or through, to get to the other side, because that's where all the greatness lies. And the thing is, that greatness is just sitting there waiting for us. It's not going nowhere. It's waiting for, and it wants us to come and get it. We just got to do the work. But I tell you, the work, it's difficult, it's challenging, but it's worthwhile because what the end will give you. And that's kind of what I really encourage people to focus on, not just what's happening in the moment. It's the long-term view and the big picture is, where is this taking me to, right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
taking me to the side.
Yeah. What is your why? Why do you want this in the first place? And when you assess the why contains the vision. And vision always takes you beyond where you are. And what your vision also does is it gives your daily activity direction. So what I seek to do is help people not lose sight of where they're going based on the challenges that they face and where they are. Because today will eventually be over. And that's what we got to understand. No matter how bad today is, today can't last forever. And so therefore, the problems of today can't last forever. But what's going to make tomorrow better is what you do today. And so every day that I live for tomorrow. And when I get to tomorrow, I live for the next day. Because my vision is going to always give my daily activity direction.
I love it. I love it. But, as a kid, my mom was always throwing sayings and expressions. And one of the favorite ones that she always said religiously every day is, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Yeah.
I grew up that's my mantra growing up. I heard it all the time. And first of all, I thank her for instilling that mindset in me as a young child growing up, because I think that's always been my fallback. Like, regardless, what situation I've gone through, and I've experienced all kinds of ups and downs in my own personal life, I've not stayed there. It's like, okay, all right, this has happened. And sure, and I want people to understand that there's nothing wrong with, being upset or hurt or angry or any of those emotions attached to this thing that happened to you. But my only thing is, and I continue, is I encourage you not to stay in that place. Right?
Yeah.
So if life was like a series of hills and valleys, on the hill where it's wonderful and a party and everyone's feeling good and you're dancing and life is good, that's a great place to be. But if you recognize that life is a continuum, so it's that journey, right? It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
The top of the hill isn't the end of the journey. And sometimes you might go in the valley a little bit, maybe come back up a bit, maybe we'll go down. But sometimes you're in that bottom of that valley where it hurts, it's painful, it's crappy, life sucks, you want nothing to do with it. So you can stay down there and go, oh man, oh man, oh man, or figure out those things to do to get you out of that valley. And so I know, and so one of my personal strategies has always been, I've always been very, very clear on the things that I enjoy and the things that I like and the things that bring me happiness and joy. So if something happens that's not great, I fall back on that stuff that I like, because that will help get me out of it. It's not making my problems go away.
Yeah.
My problems are going to be there. But when you stay in a negative, I find that when you stay in a negative state of mind, that it prevents you from being able to use that creative side of your brain that allows you to be a problem solver, that allows you to be creative, that allows you to embrace innovation, because you're so like down in the valley. If you get out and you're feeling better about yourself, your mind is free. That's where the creativity juice starts going, and that's where you start to figure out, how do I solve this problem?
No, you're right on it, my brother. One of the things I tell people all the time, even today, I live a great life. God is tremendously wonderful to me. I'm living my dream, empowering people to live a better life, helping people to transform and become who they ultimately desire to be. But I got issues. Those of you that are listening, Dan Johnson got issues. Matter of fact, now I know y'all host is absolutely amazing, and he's my kind of guy. I'm telling you, that's my brother over there, and we both bald head, and bald heads matter.
That's it.
But he got some issues.
Yes, I do.
And guess what? Y'all got some issues. We all got issues. But here's what I learned. The most important thing is not to allow issues to have us. You got issues, but don't allow those issues to have you. And some of us, some of our issues we didn't create.
That's right. That's right.
Some of our issues were issues from the trauma of our years.
And I'm so glad you said that. And I have so much respect for the fact that you said that, because we want to be able to give people some grace, right? And we want to make people think like, yeah, you shouldn't beat up yourself because you do things a certain way that don't make you happy, or it's just there's things that just aren't always your fault. What I would say though, what is your fault is how long you choose to hold on to those things.
There it is. And to your point, and what I would say, just really dealing with these issues, don't allow the issues of your past to hinder the potential of your future.
That's it.
As long as you desire, watch this, as long as you desire to move forward looking backwards, you're bound to have an accident. And some of us, and some me and some of us that's listening right now, the issue is not that you don't have direction in where you're going, but you continue to look backwards in the process of getting there. So you find yourself having these many accidents along the journey. Let me tell y'all something. From molestation to homelessness to hungry and all of those things that I've had to deal with, I want to help y'all understand. It happened. It really did happen.
Yes.
It hurt.
Yes.
It really did hurt. But I had to let it go.
Yes.
And keep on moving. Because the only power yesterday has on me is the power to keep me in my yesterday. But I can let yesterday go. It's over. It doesn't exist anymore.
That's right. That's right.
And Brother Audley, the fact that I'm still here says I won.
That's right. That's right.
For those of you that are listening, the fact that you are still here, you're listening to Audacious Living. The fact that you made a choice, because you know what the brother's about. The fact that you made a choice to tune in and says, it's not over yet. And the best is still yet to come.
It's on the horizon. It's coming.
Oh, my brother.
And even that's that hopeful spirit to live with, right? Because that's what inspires and brings joy. Your peace can come out of that. Certainly that can build your happiness and fulfillment. I just think that when you can embrace that way of living, that style of life, man, you're setting yourself up for all kinds of great stuff. You really are.
Yeah, I've learned to look at moments like they are. It's a moment. It's not forever. And a lot of times we make permanent decisions because of temporary circumstances.
Yep.
That's why suicide is where it is.
Yeah.
Because we got lost. Somebody got lost in the moment.
Yeah.
And so they made a permanent decision for a temporary circumstance.
Yeah. And that's why we've got to be so mindful of our decisions. Are they emotional, right? And not just negative emotion too. We can make happy emotions in a happy state that are good for us too, right? Like, so it's when you're making that, especially these critical ones that can have a major impact on our lives, i.e., who to choose to be your partner, right? As a spouse, if you're making that moment in the moment when you're really, really happy and you're not seeing everything, you might be setting yourself up long term, right?
That's why I wrote the book. That's 151 questions to ask before you say I do at 151questions.com, because here it is. If you choose right, you live life. You choose wrong, you won't live long. And I know what I'm talking about, man.
Oh, wow, Dan, I love it.
Yes, sir. No, and all I'm saying is sometimes we get married based on where we are
Mm,
instead of consideration of where we're going. And sometimes, and what I say to those when I'm doing relationship coaching and things of that nature is that you need to look down the street and around the corner. You got to
yeah,
look 20 years away
yeah,
to see where you're going, where you ultimately desire to be.
yeah,
And if that person that's with you now don't fit then it's a waste of time.
yeah, yeah.
And so what that book does is it kind of helps them to see down the street and around the corner 20 years. What's your vision? How do you think about this? How do you, all of the questions that you don't think to ask. And my favorite question in the book is question number 150. It says, what do you like the least about this person? And if they never change, are you willing to spend the rest of your life with them anyway?
That's deep. That's deep. I no, Dan, I love the dialogue, and again, why it made so much sense to have you on this podcast is if we can recognize that again, if the goal is to live this audacious life, then we've got to recognize the things that are going to prevent us and block us and get in the way of that happening. And when you choose to embrace failure like it's a badge of honor, right?
Yeah,
That's going to
yeah.
hold you back. If you choose to stay in a certain place and not move forward, that's going to hold you back. If you choose not to recognize the choice is yours, that's going to hold you back. And so I think everything that we're talking about here is so applicable and relevant and makes sense. I certainly appreciate you for doing this. I do want to ask you sort of one last thing before we go. And again, along those lines, if you're that, and while I'm asking the question, I kind of sense since I know you're going to go with it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because if you're that person who's on that point of making that decision, whether to stay or go, whether to flee or run or figure it out, what would you say is your first step?
So whenever you get ready to make a decision, the first step in making a decision is to consult your vision. It's to consult your vision. Is where I am or the decision I'm going to make, is it going to push me towards where I'm going? Or is it going to pull me away from it?
Right, right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of times we make a decision for the now. We got to learn that now only lasts 23 hours and 59 seconds. So for me, that's the first step.
Yep.
It's consulting the vision based on whatever decision that I'm going to make. I consult destiny, and then destiny tells me how to respond.
Gotcha. I love it. I love it. Dan, this is great. I'm telling you, it's funny when I at the end of these conversations, I always think about the thing that I want to take away and the thing that resonates with me. And I think for me, from this conversation, the whole idea of understanding that you are not your failures is huge from a mental understanding or framework standpoint in terms of developing that sort of mindset of how you want to position yourself. You're absolutely not your failures is the way to go. So I want to thank you for bringing that message. For our listeners that want to learn more about you, connect with you, I understand you've got some workshops that you're coming up with. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so listen, man, we got some webinars that's coming up, and I want to invite your audience to join us in one of our webinars, absolutely for your audience only, absolutely free. We have people that are registering that are paying for these webinars, but I want to give it to those that are listening through the Audacious Living podcast. I want to give them an opportunity to join us in one of these webinars that I believe is going to absolutely transform your life. And here's the deal. We got one that's coming up on financial literacy. where we help people get a raise the day of without asking their boss for permission. We got one coming up in how to transform failure. Then we got another one coming up, how to crush your goals in 2024. And so you can choose which one. Your audience will be able to choose which one they want to join us in on, and it'll be absolutely free. All they got to do is go to dandjohnson.com. That's dandjohnson.com. They're going to put in their email address and they're going to put in their name. They're going to receive something automatically from us, and then they're going to receive the dates of our webinar schedule, and they get to choose one absolutely free. And I believe it's going to be the beginning of that transformation process from whatever failure they think they may have experienced in their life to become a surrounding success.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Dan, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been a pleasure. Great hearing from you and your message. And I'm sure our audience walks away with some good stuff. So again, thank you, my friend, and all the best. Keep up the great work.
Man, thank you so much for having us. I appreciate you. We got to do this again on or offline. They don't care. I like talking to you. Man, you're doing an amazing work. I really appreciate it. Prosper.
My appreciation. Thank you. Back we are here on the podcast now in our conversation with Dan. We learned that failure is not the end, but a stepping stone towards success. No matter what challenges we face, it's our mindset, choices, and the vision that we determine for our path. Now, by embracing failures as life lessons and opportunities for growth, we can navigate through any kind of adversity and emerge stronger than ever. To learn more about Dan and his transformative work, I certainly encourage you to contact him. The details can be found in the show notes, and he definitely has a lot to offer, and certainly will give you an opportunity to dive deeper into this world of audacious living. Thank you so much for tuning into the Audacious Living Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you and you found value in the conversation, we certainly encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, share. If you haven't done so already, extend to your friends and family. Your support can help us continue to grow and inspire others to live their best audacious lives. Stay tuned for more empowering content and episodes to come. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.